of the rooms in Westeros, none has decided more fates than this one. Not the throne room, not the Godswood, not even the battlefield. I am talking about a long wooden table, a handful of chairs, and the most dangerous people in the Seven Kingdoms sitting around it, pretending to be civil. The small council is where Game of Thrones does its best work. Forget the dragons for a second. The show's sharpest writing, its funniest one-liners.
Any man who must say, "I am the king," is no true king.
Its most devastating power plays.
Cut his throat. Oh, wait. I've changed my mind. Let him go.
Almost all of it happens in this one room, with people who hate each other, passing wine and talking in riddles. Before we start counting down, it's worth asking why this format works so well in the first place. Think about it structurally. You've got Robert.
He has a son, a Targaryen, at the head of a Dothraki army.
Or Joffrey.
I am the king!
Or Cersei.
You're the hand of the king.
Clearly it would not be appropriate for a woman to assume that role.
At the head of the table. And then, arranged around them, a rotating cast of the show's best supporting characters. Tyrion, Varys, Littlefinger, Pycelle, Tywin, Keevan. Every single one of them wants something different, and none of them can say what they actually mean out loud. However, that's the trick. A small council scene is basically a poker game where everyone's hiding a different hand, and the dialogue is just really 5 layers of subtext stacked on top of each other. The best episodes use these scenes as pressure valves, a way to catch the audience up on political maneuvering without a single sword being drawn. And because the writing in the earlier season especially was so tight, these scenes become some of the most quotable, rewatchable material in the whole show. So here's how we're ranking these. I'm looking at writing, performance, plot impact, and pure rewatchability. Let's start the countdown. Coming in at number 10, we've got Tyrion Lannister crashing the small council for the very first time in season 2.
So much to be thankful for.
His father Tywin has sent him to King's Landing to act as hand of the king in his stead, and nobody in the room is remotely happy about it.
This is the small council.
Yes, well, I do believe the hand of the king is welcome at all small council meetings.
Our father is hand of the king.
What makes this scene work is the sheer comedic imbalance of it. You've got Cersei, Pycelle, Varys, and Littlefinger, all of whom have spent years running the capital exactly the way they like it. And suddenly, this short, sharp-tongued outsider strolls in, sits at the head of the table, and starts asking uncomfortable questions about where all the money's gone and why nobody bothered to plan for the war Robert supposedly wanted. It's a great introduction because it immediately establishes the show's version of competence. Tyrion isn't the strongest person in the room, or the most respected. He's just the only one willing to say the obvious thing. Everyone is too polite or too self-interested to say. Cersei's fury at being sidelined.
Out! All of you out!
Pycelle's oily attempts to flatter his way back into relevance.
Peasants say a long summer means an even longer winter.
A common superstition.
Varys' amused neutrality. It's a masterclass in blocking 5 different agendas into one 5-minute scene, and it sets the tone for 2 full seasons of Tyrion basically running the kingdom while everyone resents him for it. Coming in at number 9 takes us back to season 1, right after Robert Baratheon dies from his hunting accident, and the small council has to figure out what to do about a captured Ned Stark, who's just confessed to treason he didn't actually commit, purely to save his daughters. This scene is brutal, because it's the moment the show reveals just how much these people are willing to sacrifice for stability, or for their own skins. Littlefinger and Varys both push for mercy dressed up as pragmatism, each for their own private reasons. Cersei wants Ned dead because he's dangerous to her.
My brother's worth 1,000 of your friend.
Your brother? Or your lover?
And looming all over it, it is the looming threat of Joffrey, a teenage king with no restraint and total authority.
Kill him! Kill all of them, I command it!
What elevates this scene is the dramatic irony. The audience already suspects Joffrey is a loose cannon, watching the adults in the room try to negotiate a clean, boring, merciful resolution, exile to the wall, a quiet ending, while knowing it's about to blow up in a spectacular fashion gives the scene a slow building dread that pays off catastrophically just a few scenes later. Coming in at number 8, we've got Tywin Lannister stepping fully into command, reminding everyone in King's Landing, including his own children, exactly who's actually in charge. What is fascinating about Tywin's council scenes is how little he actually raises his voice. Where Joffrey rules through tantrums and Robert ruled through absence, Tywin runs a room the way a great chess player runs a board. Quiet, economical, 3 moves ahead of everyone else. He doesn't need volume, because everyone's already understanding the consequences of crossing him. The best version of this is when he calmly dismantles Joffrey's cruelty in front of the entire council.
The king is tired. See him to his chambers.
Using a lesson about kingship that's less about kindness and more about strategic self-preservation. The idea that a smart ruler surrounds himself with people who compensates for his weaknesses, rather than surrounding himself with people who flatter his strengths. It's a masterclass in how Tywin operates. He never argues that Joffrey is wrong to be cruel, only that cruelty without control is a liability. That's colder and frankly more menacing than if he had simply scolded him. Coming in at number 7 jumps all the way to season 6, after Cersei has just annihilated most of her political enemies in one fiery afternoon. She walks into the small council chamber, and one by one strips titles from the men who thought they still had power over her. Men who spent years underestimating her intelligence because of her gender and her past mistakes. This scene lands well, because of everything that came before it. We spent 5 seasons watching Cersei get talked over.
You will do as I command, and you will marry Loras Tyrell.
Undermined and humiliated by exactly these men.
I would be willing to serve provisionally as the king's hand until he becomes
You're a
bold
good
enough to
man, Lord
make...
Tyrell, but I don't imagine you'll have the time.
Watching her calmly and methodically dismantle their authority, resigning positions, revoking privileges, making it clear that the era of tolerating them is over, it's a genuine villain gets her moment. Even though by this point Cersei has done plenty to earn the label of villain herself. It's also one of the best examples of the show using stillness for menace. There's no shouting, no threats, just quiet cruelty, delivered by someone who has learned the hard way. That the small council table is the most effective weapon in the entire capital. Coming in at number 6, we've got one of Tyrion and Varys' best pieces on long-form scheming, finally paying off. The exposure of Grandmaster Pycelle as a fraud who's been feeding information to Cersei behind everyone's backs while playing the doddering old fool for the rest of the council. What makes this so satisfying is the slow burn. For seasons, Pycelle has been a background irritant, snivelling, self-important, seemingly harmless. Then we get a glimpse behind the curtain. Pycelle drops the act completely the moment he's alone, moving with total clarity and purpose, revealing that his fatality has been a performance the entire time. When that mask finally comes off in front of the people he's been deceiving, it recontextualizes years of scenes we thought we understood. It is a great reminder that in this universe, the most dangerous people in the room is often the one everyone assumes is the least important. Varys and Tyrion play their advantage over him with real relish, and it's one of the few times the show lets his scheming characters actually enjoy a clean win. Coming in at number 5 brings us the ongoing sibling rivalry between Tyrion and Cersei, specifically during the lead up to the Battle of the Blackwater. When Tyrion makes the deeply unpopular decision to send Myrcella away to Dorne for her own safety without consulting her mother first, this sequence is a great showcase for how differently these two Lannisters wield power. Cersei operates from raw emotion and maternal fury, barely containing her rage at being outmaneuvered regarding her own daughter. Tyrion operates from cold logic, willing to make an emotionally brutal call because he believes it's the right strategic move for the family's survival. Neither of them is entirely wrong, and that's exactly why it works. This isn't a scene with a villain and a hero. It's two flawed, intelligent people who genuinely love their family in completely incompatible ways. Their dynamic across these council scenes becomes some of the most reliably compelling material in the early seasons, largely because both actors bring such different energy to the table. One coiled and explosive, the other dry, weary, and always 2 steps ahead. Coming in at number 4, we've got the small council scrambling to prepare King's Landing for Stannis Baratheon's incoming fleet, weighing options that range from conventional defense to something far more drastic, a massive stockpile of wildfire hidden beneath the city, ready to be weaponized against an invading navy. This scene works because it's genuinely tense strategy, not just political theatre. You can feel the desperation underneath the polished dialogue. These people know the city might fall, and the debate about wildfire brings out real philosophical differences. Tyrion's discomfort with a weapon that could kill thousands indiscriminately, versus the colder alteration calculus of using anything necessary to survive. Above all, it's a reminder that these meetings aren't just comic relief between the action. Sometimes they are where the action actually gets decided long before a single soldier steps out onto a battlefield. Coming in at number 3 is technically a smaller, more intimate scene at the same table. Just Tywin and Joffrey. After most of the council has cleared out, Tywin uses the moment to reach out to his grandson, something about what actually makes a good king, using the histories of past rulers as his teaching tool. It's one of the most quietly devastating scenes in the show, precisely because of how calm it is. Tywin never yells, he simply patiently walks Joffrey through why cruelty and impulsiveness makes for a short and unstable reign, framing kingship less as a birthright and more as a discipline, something that has to be earned through calculation, not through fear alone. Joffrey, of course, barely absorbs any of it, which makes the scene even sadder in hindsight, because we already know how this story ends for him. This is Tywin at his absolute best, commanding an entire scene through stillness and precision rather than volume, delivering some of the most quietly chilling lines in the series without ever raising his voice. We are almost at the top of the list. If you've made it this far, let me know in the comments which scene you think deserves number 1 spot, because we're about to find out if you actually agree with me. Coming in at number 2, we jump all the way forward to Daenerys Targaryen finally reaching King's Landing, and beginning to ensemble her own small council, with Tyrion still serving his hand despite his repeated strategic failures along the way. This entry earns its spot, not because it's a flawless scene, but because of what it actually represents structurally. The show coming full circle. We started this list with an outsider crashing an established council. Here, years later, we get the mirror image, an entirely new power structure trying to establish itself in the same room, where Robert, Joffrey, Tommen, and Cersei once sat. The tension between Daenerys' idealism and the political realities of ruling Westeros play out in miniature in these scenes. She wants revolutionary change, but she's forced to work through the exact same bureaucratic, compromise-heavy machinery that broke so many rulers before her. It's also a fascinating showcase of Tyrion's arc reaching its most complicated point. The once brilliant strategist increasingly overwhelmed, second-guessing himself, caught between loyalty to Daenerys and his own family. Whatever you think of the final season resolve these characters' arcs, the council scenes themselves remain a compelling snapshot of a regime in its final unstable moments before everything collapses. Coming in at number 1, the very last small council adjacent scene in the entire series, where the surviving power players of Westeros gather to decide who will rule the Seven Kingdoms after everything that's happened. This scene earns the top spot, because of everything it's carrying on its shoulders. Every character we've watched scheme, argue, and maneuver around that table for 8 seasons is finally in one room together, minus the ones who didn't survive to see it. Tyrion, still in chains, still somehow more insightful than anyone else present, makes the argument that ends up reshaping the entire political future of the continent. That the best ruler isn't necessarily the one with the strongest claim or the sharpest sword, but the one whose story people choose to believe in. It's a fitting bookend for a show that spent 8 years arguing the political power in Westeros was never really about armies or dragons. It was about a story could get people to believe, and the room full of clever, self-interested people willing to go along with it. Now, whether or not you loved where the show ultimately landed with its ending, there's no denying that this final gathering pulls together every thread the small council format had been building since season 1 into one last, quiet, enormously consequential conversation. And that's our ranking: 10 scenes, 1 table, and some of the best writing the show ever produced. No dragons required. Let me know down in the comments if I got this list right, or if I left out your favourite moment. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe because we've got a lot more Game of Thrones content coming your way. Thanks for watching.